In this lesson, we're going to take a closer look at how we can make and create animations in After Effects and learn more about the different options in the Transform tab and how we can move shapes and other things in this program. So we already learned about the animation essentials like position, rotation, scale, opacity, and anchor points. We also learned about the tools that are necessary for animations. We learned about the pen tool and the shape tool. So those are the tools that we're going to use in this lesson to create a really simple animation. But with creating this particular animation, you get to understand the logic of how things move in After Effects and how we can use what we've learned so far and apply it to a really simple movement and then animate it using different tools and different options. So this is an animation that every person creates before they start getting professional with After Effects. So it's a great exercise for you guys to follow. And without further ado, let's get started. So I just opened After Effects. Let's make our composition. Click on New Composition. Let's name it Ball Bounce. Leave the settings be. Hit OK. So let me just quickly explain what we're going to create. We're going to have a ball drop down from the top, and it's going to bounce up and down until it no longer moves and is still on the ground. So with our shape tool, we're going to make the ball, and behind it we'll put a background so it's all nice and tidy. And then we're going to use the different animation options in the Transform tab to make the ball move. So I'm going to go to my shape tool. The shortcut is Q. Usually you would be on the rectangle, and if you want to switch between these, you can hit Q. Now we are changing shapes. Pay attention here. As you keep hitting Q, you're going to change and move throughout the shapes, but make sure you've selected this box. So if I click away, we click on the pen tool, I cannot hit Q and keep changing it. I need to go on top and click the shape tool and then hit Q so I can scroll through the different options that I have. Now notice that next to my cursor there is a star. We already talked about this, but let's go over it again. A star indicates that what you're about to create is going to be a shape. It's really important because when you have an image here, let's say, let me just quickly bring in this camel. So if I had my camel down here, and I'm just going to make it larger, I'll hit V on my keyboard to make it larger. We have some pixelation, it's okay. If I click on my camel 1 and I proceed to choose my shape, you can see that the cursor has a different icon. And that, if you're not familiar with it, is the masking icon. So what that means is that instead of creating a separate circle shape, I'm going to be masking this camel with a circular shape. So if I create a circle, you can see that I have masked out the camel except for everything that's in the circle that I just created. So if you have a layer down there, maybe you created your background image, you brought it in, make sure that you're not clicking on the image and that you are not on anything as you draw your shape. So let me hit Control Z to get back my camel. So just look at the cursor, it's on the mask icon. If I click away from camel 1, there is a star. So that means I'm going to be creating a shape and not a mask layer. So now I can just create a shape. You can see we have two different layers. One is a shape, one is my camel. I'll just delete the shape and the camel. Alright, so always pay attention to the icon next to your cursor. You want to make sure that it's relevant to what you're going to do. So if you're going to create a shape, you want to make sure you have the shape icon next to your cursor, which is this star. Alright, so I got my circle and I'm going to choose a fill color. Guess I'll go with like a bright green, hit OK, and I'll click, hold down Shift and expand to make a perfect circle. If I don't hold down Shift, I'm going to have maybe an uneven circle, which is not the case with balls. They're perfectly round and we want to recreate that using the shape tool and make sure that it's a perfect circle. That's why we're going to hold down Shift after we have started. So click, hold down Shift to make a perfect circle. I'm going to undo that, and again I'm going to start again. Click, hold down Shift, and create my circle. Oops. I let go too quickly. There we are. So this is my shape. We have the option to change the color. I'm going to remove the stroke. I'm going to turn it to 0. Now if we zoom in, I'm using my scroll wheel on my mouse to just zoom in. And I'm going to hit H on my keyboard to get the hand tool. That way I can move around my thing. You can see that there's nothing here because we turned off the stroke. But if I add a number, you can see we have a white stroke. If you want, you can add a different color. I'm going to add black so we can see the outline of the shape clearly. Maybe like 2 points. Let's go for like 3. You can always type in a number. Go with like 4 so it's nicely visible. Hit H on my keyboard to get the hand tool. Use my scroll wheel to center my composition. I'll hit V on my keyboard to get the selection tool. Just drag it to the center of my work. And if we hit Control R or Command R, we're going to access the rulers. If I hit Control R again, you can see there's nothing. Control R, we have the rulers. Now the reason we would use the rulers is to make sure everything is straight. You can click and drag from the corner to get a grid like this. So I can know if my circle is centered or not. I'm just going to drag one from the top. So this is going to be a temporary grid just to see if everything is even. But once you let go, there's nothing there. But for my case, I just want a vertical ruler in the center of my work. There we are. So using the ruler, I'm just going to center my shape. I want to make sure it's in the center. And another thing that you guys notice is that I'm really, I can freely move this subject, but I want things to be even. That's why I placed a ruler. So we have this option called snapping. You've probably noticed it up here. And what this means is that it's going to allow us to make more precise positioning. So if I like come closer, it's going to snap right with my ruler, and that's just going to save me a lot of time. So let me just go. And to get the snapping option, you have to be in the move tool or the selection tool. So if I'm in the hand tool, you can see it disappears. So go in the selection tool or hit V on your keyboard and turn on the snapping option and also these 2 options. Now you can see that it's moving a lot more strictly and it snaps onto my ruler. And another thing that you guys can do to make sure that things are moving perfectly along the horizontal line or the vertical line is that you can hold down Shift while you move. So on my layer, I'm going to hold down Shift and then click on my shape, the anchor point. Hold on, let me move this away. I'm going to go down here, hold down Shift, and just move my shape. You can see it's only moving horizontally unless I like drag it down, which will kind of snap all the way to the bottom. But this way I can make sure it's only moving in one line horizontally. And if I hold down Shift again and move it upwards, it's only going to be moving in one line vertically. And I know when I'm moving out of that line, when it like snaps to the side, So this will allow me to create precise positioning. So I'm going to hit Ctrl Z to get back my ruler. And I'm just going to center my shape, although it doesn't really matter for the vertical alignment because we're going to be moving our ball anyways. But I'm trying to make sure that it's placed correctly within the horizontal line. You can also use your arrow keys to make little movements. This that is in the center. And hit Ctrl R. If you move it, you can just make sure it needs to be a little bit to the left and up. I'm going to move my ruler back to the center. And now there is my shape. Now I want to decorate my ball. I don't want it to be this green, a flat green shape. So I'm going to zoom in using my scroll wheel. Hit Edge on my keyboard. I'm going to draw a half circle at the top with a different color. So I'm going to zoom in. Then I'm going to get my pen tool. You can either hit it there or hit G on your keyboard. And again, you can see next to my cursor, I have the star shape, which means that I'm going to be creating a shape and not a mask. So right now, because I'm on the shape layer, I will not be creating a mask. But if I did have an image, let me just quickly demonstrate. You could see it goes back to the mask icon, and using this I can create masks for my shape layers, for the image in this case. Delete that shape. I'm going to zoom in, hit Edge on my keyboard to move the composition in the right area. Hit G again to get my pen tool. Alright, so I'm going to choose a color. I will keep the black stroke, but I will make this part maybe like a orange color. I want to make sure it's vibrant so everything is nicely visible. I will add another ruler. You don't have to, but I like to make sure it's evenly placed. Just move it a little higher. And now I'm going to create a point here. Then another one on the other side, but I'm going to click and drag to add the curve that the ball has. So I'll click here, click and then drag to make a nice circle. I'm going to let go once I'm happy with the curve. You can always move these guys around to adjust it. But this is how you adjust it. You can go on one of the handles. If you move that, you can change the curve of the ball, of the line, that is. So I'm going to make another, I'm going to close the shape. So just click here. And you can see that it's not looking quite nice. So I would have to drag the handles. You can see it's really small. Zoom out, just drag the handles. And I'm going to just work with it until I'm happy with this shape. I'm going to hit Edge on my keyboard to move around so I can see this handle. And I'm going to kind of move it around. I'm going to turn off snapping because snapping is not that useful when you're working with curves. So you want to be careful with that. Just trying to create a shape, which is really weird. Move it up maybe. Get my pen tool again and just move the edge over here. Go back in. Bring the handle like this. I guess I'll add a point here. Then move it upwards. Find the handles, it's really small, to add a curve and make sure it aligns with the stroke of the green shape. Get the V again and just, try to get the handle. Because I have to zoom in. Hit Edge to move around. You see it's really small. So I'm going to expand it, and I'm going to zoom out so I can see where I need to stop. And there we are. Zoom out, click away, and now it has kind of like a hat. I did want to change the position of this guy. It's a little out of line. Now I'm going to click away, and our ball has this yellow top. Zoom out, hit the edge on my keyboard. I'm going to see if it's equal. It is. Just the curve here, it's a little bit uneven. The more time you spend on it, the better it will look. So I have to just work with this curve. And because I have the ruler, I could see the two sides. Oops. Whether they're equal or not. I guess now it's kind of equal. Just let it be. Click away. And if you want, you could add more stripes. You can add stripes to your shape, or you could just leave it be like this. Now the thing is that these two were created as two different shape layers. So they're not connected. So they're two different layers, and it's going to be a problem because if I add P to this, to the first green ball, let me just rename it real quick. Green ball. And yellow top. So if I move my green ball, I'll turn on the stopwatch. I'll move it around. You can see the green top is left behind. Sorry, the yellow top is left behind, but we wanted them to be together. We want the yellow top to be a part of the green ball. So we have to kind of link these two together. So when I add a positioning to one of them, the other moves with that too. It's going to hit Ctrl-Z to undo that. And stop the positioning. Hit M to close everything. So there are a couple ways that you can add shapes onto one another. The first thing, which would be the obvious thing, so just click on the, I'm going to turn off yellow top for a second. Click on your original shape and then add the other shape while you're highlighting this layer. So this shape that I'm creating right now, it's a part of green ball. And if you open this and contents, you can see there are a bunch of shapes. So now if I click away, move my green ball, hit position, and this guy, you can see it all moves at the same time. So that's one way that you could add shapes. Hit M again. Hit Ctrl-Z, get rid of this shape. Another way that you can do is that you can add the paths, which we already went over. But essentially, if you create more than one shape, let me create another one. You have an option to add these. So if you merge these paths, you can see that, let me click away, they are one shape and you have more options down here. But for our case where we already drew two shapes and I don't want to delete my yellow top and then start over, it's going to be really time consuming. It's to link the two layers. Hit Ctrl-Z, hit M to close everything. So I'm going to turn on my yellow top again. If you look here, it's written parent and link. So essentially, I want the yellow top to be connected to my green ball. So I will drag this spiral shape and bring it over to green ball. You can see now instead of none, Ctrl-Z to show you. First it was none, then drag this guy, put it on green ball. Now this yellow top layer, it's linked to the green ball. So if I move the green ball, let me move the position, they move together. So if you want two shapes to be together when you're adding effects, you can use one of these methods to add them together. Ctrl-Z. So now we've linked the yellow top to the green ball. I also want to add some stripes just to make things look pretty. So I'm going to click away to make my separate layers because I want to duplicate it. I will click one on the edge of yellow top and end it here. Click and drag to make a spiral shape. I'm going to turn off my fill layer. I'll keep it the same. I'll just keep it the same green. And I'll leave the stroke. If I click away, you can see we now have like a nice little stripe. I'm going to hold down and hit Ctrl D to duplicate that layer. And then I'll just move it away. And we have two. I will kind of flip it the other way, transform. We are going to flip horizontal. Now it's facing the other way. I'll just put it in a similar space. Use my arrow keys to kind of move it down and make a precise placement. Click away to make sure it's looking good. Alright, and we need to make one more in the middle. So I will first move away my ruler. Get my first point in. The second point, click and drag to make a slight curve in the center. Alright, so it's not looking that great, but it's fine for now. Now I can do the same thing and just link every layer that's above here to my green ball. You can also just hold down, click on that layer to add to that shape. But I'm just going to continue with this method. Now if I move my green ball, hit P on your keyboard to access position, they all move together. Alright, so I created my ball. I'm happy with the way it looks. I can now begin animating my ball. But the downside of creating different layers and then linking them to your main object is that you're going to have a lot of layers, and sometimes that will be a little confusing. So I would recommend trying to keep this timeline as tidy as possible, because when you're first starting out, the number of layers could get a bit confusing for you guys. So now I am going to draw a background layer. I'll click away, get like I guess I'll add a solid background first. I'm going to go in this project panel, go to your timeline, go to layer, new, and solid. I'm going to name this background. Choose a color. Let's go down here. Let's choose a bright color so the vibrant shapes stand out. Hit OK. And now we have this solid layer, but it's above everything else. So we're going to click and drag it below everything else. So now we have a background layer. And I don't want it moving around, so I'm going to lock it in place. Alright, so we have a background. Now I want to have like a floor so this ball can bounce on it. So I'll go in my shape, hit Q to get to my rectangle. And I'm going to make sure that I'm not on any layer. You can see the star if I was on background. Let me unlock it. If I was on background, I will be creating a mask instead. So make sure you're not on any layer. Just click and drag to make the floor. So this will do. Choose a different color. Let's go for like orange. Keeping things vibrant. And again, this is on top of everything, so if my ball was to move down, you can see it goes behind that, but this was supposed to be the floor where the ball is supposed to bounce on it. So we need to, I'm going to hit M, click and drag, let me name this floor, and then click and drag the floor layer all the way underneath green ball and above the background. So now if I move my green ball, it's going to be on top of my floor. Control Z. Oops, hit it too much. Right. Hit M on the floor and M on the green ball to close all the tabs. And now we can start with animating. I'm also going to lock my floor layer so I don't move it accidentally. Alright, so I'm not going to be touching any of these, but I'm not going to lock them because all of these layers are linked to the ball layer that I'm going to move. So I'm just going to be working with green ball. So first I'm going to, like we said, we wanted to drop onto the floor, so it shouldn't be in the middle here. So hit P on your keyboard, or just go open the options, go to transform, gotta open them, and go to position. But if you hit P, you're only opening the position, which could be a lot more organized. Not on the axis, on the Y axis, because you're going to be moving it vertically. And we're going to move the slider to the left because we want it to go upwards. You can also add a number by clicking on it, but I'm just going to drag it away. And now it's out of my thing. You can, if you zoom out, you can see the outline. And then you could decide for the right area. So now I'm going to start my stopwatch because I want to start from here and not from the center of my composition. Start the stopwatch, and then I'm going to decide at what point this guy is going to come down. So I'm going to go at like maybe 4 seconds. I can always change it, and I'm going to bring it to the right until it reaches the floor. Alright, so you can see it's starting from here, ending from here. If you're not seeing this, then your stopwatch is not turned on. So now if I go back, click away, hit play, you can see the ball is coming down really slowly. And we already talked about how if your keyframes are closer, they're going to be moving faster. So I'm going to bring it to like 2 seconds. Click away. You can see that it's coming down faster, but I want it to come down even faster. So I'll go for like 1.5 seconds. See, it's coming down quickly. And now we made our ball fall down from the sky. And then anything else that we want to add, we will do it in the next lesson, or the part 2 of this lesson. Now we did this really simple animation. We created our ball and the background and everything. In the second part of this lesson, we're going to move towards the actual animation with the rotation, the scaling, and the bouncing. So for this lesson, we just did, we created our shapes. We added a simple position animation. And we're going to finish it off in the next lesson.